India deploys more missiles and fighter jets towards China border as China has increased its deployment of missile defense systems and its fighter jets towards India border. As India-China standoff continues along the line of actual control or the LAC, the Indian Air Force Chief Bhadauria has said this week that China has deployed heavily along the border in the eastern Ladakh to support its army. A large number of radars and missiles were also deployed in the valley against India with an aim to carry out a planned escalation, to establish border clearing lines, or to start the border talks on the newer positions, said Bhadauria. As Mr. Bhadauria said, China's People's Liberation Army Air Force has quite a significant deployment in Ladakh to support its PLA ground force. India's Air Marshal Anil Chopra, while speaking to Eurasian Times, has said he estimates that China has nearly 100 combat aircraft near Indian border. While China cannot deploy more than this because they have just 3 airfields in that area. The closest is the Garganza Civil Airport with small Air Force enclave. It is at over 10,000 feet altitude and can accommodate only a few military aircraft. According to new reports, India will conduct war games with French Air Force with its newly bought Rafale fighter jets and Su-30 MKI fighters at Jodhpur of India. Indian Air Force had last carried out an exercise with the French Air Force in July last year. Also, China and Pakistan had similar exercises a few weeks before. The Horten is China's main PLA Air Force base at around 350 km from the area of action and that can take 50 to 60 aircraft. The third is the Kashgar, around 600 km from a place of action. Mr. Chopra also said that many Chinese fighter jets, mostly J-11 and J-10, also have been seen in the Chinese bases. The newer J-20 5th generation stealth fighter jet has also operated in the region, but it is not locally deployed. Also, H-6K bombers with 6 cruise missiles each have been sighted at the Horten base of China, along with the Russian origin Su-30 close to Indian territory in Tibet. Mr. Chopra also said that in comparison to China, Indian Air Force has nearly 10 airfields within 350 km of the area of action, and Indian Air Force has the capability to field around 250 aircraft at a time. China has also activated its air defense systems, including S-400 acquired from Russia. Indian Air Force has deployed its frontline fighters, including the Rafale and MiG-29 in the Ladakh sector, at multiple bases and is ready to respond to any misadventure by the Chinese side. Indian Air Force has also positioned radars and air defense systems and missile system up front near the India-China border. Also, the weapons stocking has increased in Indian side. There are permanent position fighter jet at Leh now. IAF fighter and helicopters and transport aircraft are operating in large numbers. While acknowledging that Chinese armed forces are much larger and they can bring in more forces to bear from its second-tier bases, Chopra said that the Chinese will find it difficult to channelize all their resources against India, considering Beijing is facing problems with regards to Taiwan, Japan, Australia, besides the US and Europe. The air chief also mentioned the improvements and the important Aini Air Force base in Tajikistan that gives India a strategic footprint in Central Asia and also against Pakistan. Talking about India's budgetary constraints, Air Chief Marshal Chopra retired said, "The total budget is nearly 3.5 times less than China's. Also, the funds available for the capital acquisition are low. The modernization has backlog and therefore there is a need for out-of-budget funding of some major acquisition. For Indian Air Force, it is critical to get back its fighter squadron strength from 30 to 42 at the earliest as possible." So what do you think of India and China deploying more missiles fighter jets towards India-China border as they are more pushing towards a war-like scenario or a war situation? India's most secretive, most advanced lead drone or unmanned combat jet is getting ready for assembly and the production. India's DRDO, the Ladakh, or what was previously referred to as ARA, is perhaps the foremost secretive aircraft project of the Indian government, which is aimed to develop an unmanned sleek deep penetration strike bomber for the Indian soldiers or for the Indian Air Force. The new appearance made was during a lecture on UAV aerodynamics shared about a fortnight ago, and therefore the crafters understood as the SIFT, the Sleek Wing Flying Testbed, and reassembles the Ladakh UAV physically. According to the sources, the image is that the introduction of the Ladakh scaled-down prototype with its undercarriage. One of the models with flying wing SIFT is often seen, and therefore the institute, the IIT Kanpur of India, is reportedly studying the viability of achieving lower radar cross-sections and conducting wind tunnel tests, making an important base for the future Indian aircraft projects with the aviation sector. The technologies related to the project are expected to be 100% indigenously developed, or known as Make in India or Made in India. However, the controversies is still prevail over the power plant. In 2018, it had been reported that the prototype would be powered by the Russian NPO Saturn 36MT turbojet. It is expected by the time the Ladakh would be able to fly, India would have successfully developed its own engine called Kaveri and technologies related to it. The engine is going to be developed together with its French company Safran, which also came as an offset clause with the Rafale deal. Other than IIT Kanpur of India, IIT Bombay has also collaborated for the design and the testing of the serpentine air intake duct, also known as the S-duct inlet for the engine. Currently, various nations are performing on the event of such aircraft with comparable roles of the sleet bombing and reconnaissance, including the Russian Sukhoi S-70 Okhotnik, which made its maiden flight in August of 2019. The similar projects also include British BAE System, Tarnis, German Spanish RKS Bhadauria, American Boeing X-45, and Northrop Grumman X-47B, French Dassault Neuron, Lockheed Martin's RQ-170, and therefore the Russian Mikoyan Skat. So what do you think of India secretively building and assembling and planning and designing all the advanced and the fleet of unmanned combat jet for the Indian Air Force and the Indian military? Can India outperform all the countries including US, Russia and China in the unmanned combat jet program?